Hello YouTube, it is Hunter Surge here with Cardfight Vanguard news. We have two different Fantome decks today. We also have the English conference, which brought some very relevant news. So let's get into all of it. Starting with our cards of the day, we only have two cards today. After these first two cards today, cards of the day transition to showing off the high rarity because there wasn't anything left to really show off. So we have Alden support. When it's discarded from hand and you have a grade 2 or greater Vanguard, cool condition, you may reveal an Alden from Rydek, and if you revealed or you have a grade 3 Valgate Alden, you Soul Blast 1, call it to rear. When it's placed on rear or guardian circle and you have a grade 3 or greater Alden Vanguard, it gets power +5 and shield +5. And if it was placed on rear by the effect of your grade 3 or greater Alden, it gets another power +5. So it's +10k shield, +5k shield, +10k power, +5k shield, calls itself off discard. These are all pretty solid qualities. It seems like a pretty solid card. Grade 2, when it's placed on rear by the effect, placed on the rear of that another unit is on by your card ability, and you have a grade 3 or greater Alden Vanguard, Soul Charge 1 or Energy Blast 2, Energy Charge 2, does not seem like anywhere near a good enough effect. And then we have the Keter clone of the EV5 card that the energy cost is reduced by 1 for each card in your damage zone, and you pay the cost to get plus 10k on battle. And then this grade 1, this grade 1 is surprisingly real for like a common generic. So this grade 1 is when it boosts and your opponent has a grade 3 or greater Vanguard, during this battle, you may give this power +10k. If you do, retire all of your rears in the same column as this unit at the end of the battle. So there's a couple things with this card. Number one, if this boosts Vanguard, the only thing that's getting retired is itself. Two, there's a number of Keter decks that, like, as a result of like calling over or like an effect like or because of various effects, just aren't really going to care about this downside. They're going to Mirage anyways. So you can get a lot of value out of this. Because like an 18k booster is just something that is a premium. That is something that's just very, very valuable in general. If you're a Keter deck that has no problem board building, but didn't really have, and this doesn't really like it, a Keter deck that that for example doesn't have any issue board building but doesn't Mirage naturally, could also really value this card because it's a way for it to Mirage away its board to play into certain matchups, right? Blangdemeyer Fantome, I can really easily see this in because like you have the booster that calls itself back from bind, so you put this in the column where that's going to go, and you just feed. You're gonna call for the front row anyways with the Blangdemeyer on attack effect. So you just get an 18k booster for free. Like I like this card a lot. I think there's like decks like Blangdemeyer and Reziel, it can really easily slot into. I think this card is very, very high potential. 18k boosters are just like really, really, really solid. That's like 5k more power than you're typically getting out of that column, and that can be a really big deal, especially because it can be applied to any attacker. Like I value higher power on a booster a lot higher than I value higher power on an attacker, because I am far more likely going to be able to pair that with something archetypal that's already strong. So yeah, like that card a lot. Then we had then Dark States cards. We got the also regressed member of the Cycler, which is the Self Reviver for Soul Blast 1 when you ride it also regressed Vanguard, and then it gets +5k if you have an also regressed Vanguard, and if you Persona Roll this turn, it gets an additional +10k. Then the +5k power, +5k shield, grade 1. And this is not a member of a cycle. This grade 1 is when it's placed on rear from hand, you Soul Blast 2, choose and put a unit with grade equal to the total grade of the cards you Soul Blasted this for this cost from your drop into Soul. I really can't see this card being good anywhere. This is just not good. Not a good card. Okay. Cards of the day done. Let's talk about the stream reveals before we get into the English conference. So first we have the Alphard deck. So let's start with the ride line. So grade 0 is Drag Raider Reki, basic starter. Grade 1 is this thing, Gerbador, Thunder Hermit Gerbador. When it's rode upon by the grade 2, you look top 7, and you reveal and add up to 1 Fantome or Crimson Moon from among them to your hand, and shuffle your deck. And if you don't reveal, this translation is incorrect. If you don't reveal, you soul charge 2. Then the grade 2, when it's rode upon by a grade 3 Alphard, and you have 4 or less in your damage zone, you put the top card of your deck into your damage zone face down. If placed at the end of the turn, you choose and add 1 from your damage zone to hand. So Alphard has 1 or 2 effects that care about the number of cards in your damage zone. So that's what that's about. But this is also like really nice because like it means that like if a piece that you want, like in particular a PG or Persona ride, ends up getting damaged early, you can just add it, you can just counterblast it during your turn and then add it back using this effect, which is super, super nice. Like this is a really, really nice ride line effect. And also, this is the only Fantome that got a ride line that goes +2. So that's really important to note. Definitely a big thing to note. Okay, let's talk about Alphard now and get through to the rest of them. So Alphard Fantome, it has an active effect to Soul Blast 2 and get power plus 3k for each card in your damage zone. And if there are 3 or more in your damage zone, you get to retire one of your opponent's rears. And if nothing was retired, your opponent has to discard a card. This is a G style of effect that we would see this a lot on mass retired strides back in G. So I'm glad to see it make its resurgence. This is a place where it's really appropriate to put a hand rip, where it's like, okay, I'm not choosing what you discard, and this is only a punish for you completely clearing out your board with Mirage effects. So I like this effect being here a lot. Then the Fantome skill is when it attacks a grade 3 or greater, you bind any number of Crimson Moons from your hand, soul, or drop, and during this battle it gets critical +1. If you bound 4 or more, you get power plus NK, critical +1, and drive +1. And if you Persona Road, it gets a Sentinel Restrict on its attack. And that Sentinel Restrict only requires you to bind 1. You can just go for the crit +1 mode and get the Sentinel Restrict as well if you Persona Road that turn. However, I don't think that's particularly well advised. As we'll get into as we go through the rest of the deck doesn't really have enough kill power outside of the Shotgun 4 and go for a kill shot. Very scary with the kill shot because that's a 3 crit, 3 drives. We're probably looking, bare minimum, we're looking at 48 before we bring any boosts into the equation. So it's very, very large. However, it can be stopped by Blitz Order Sentinels like Sanctitude, which is not ideal, certainly. Certainly not ideal. But yeah, this is pretty good, pretty solid boss unit, pretty cool kill shot mechanic. It has enough holes in it, and like it's like only 1 attack, unlike Blangdemeyer. So like it's like fine. I'm never a huge fan of these sorts of guard restrict cards, but like this is as far as designing one, this is like a lot more reasonable than like Blangdemeyer. Then we have grade 2 triple rare Gamma Rays Dragon. It gets power plus 5k if you have a grade 3 or greater Alphard Vanguard, and then it gets another power plus 5k if your opponent is at grade 3 or greater. And then when your grade 3 or greater Alphard Vanguard attacks, if you have not stood a rear guard during this battle phase, counterblast 1, draw a card, and stand this unit. So this deck is only 4 attacks because there's no other multi-attackers in the whole deck. And you cannot restand multiple of these, which is not ideal. But at least it does draw a card. Like, drawing a card off of that restand effect is really strong. Maybe a sign of some power creep occurring. Because Plus 10k and Counter Blast 1 or Energy Blast 3 for a restand when your Vanguard attacks has been the standard for a while now. So this just also drawing a card for free is a bit scary, power creep wise. But overall I think this is fine. Then we have another grade 2. This is Habitable Zone. This is the cycle. When it's this card from hand for your right when you right to right deck, and you have a Fantome Vanguard, you Soul Blast 1 or Energy Blast 3 to search for Crimson Moon. And when it's placed on Guardian Circle from hand and you have a Fantome Vanguard, you either Counter Blast 1 or Energy Blast 3 to draw a card. Thoughts on this is like pretty similar to the others, where like I'm not a huge fan of these cards. But Alphard in particular really needs to find the Crimson Moons. Like, it needs to find all 4. So you probably just have to run this. You probably don't have much of a choice in the matter. Then we have a grade 3 double rare Recurrence Dragon. From drop, during your main phase when your opponent's rear is retired or your opponent discards from hand, and you have a grade 3 or greater Alphard Vanguard. So basically when you use the act of Alphard, you Energy Blast 3 and call this to rear. And then during this turn, it gets power plus 3k for each card in your damage zone. And then you just get to take a card from drop and put it into soul. So theoretically, you can call multiple of these because it does not have a same name restriction. And also this gets can just get plus 15k for 28. And it gets that without having to attack. So it's actually a really good. It makes Alphard a really good candidate for the boost order package, because you can just snap this behind Alphard and make your kill turn way bigger because it now has a 28k booster behind it. Really very solid, and of course as an attacker it's really good too, because it also has the effect of if you have a Fantome Vanguard, it gets intercept and shield plus 10. So it's intercepting for good numbers. It has good shield value from hand. This is the type of grade 3 rear guard that you really have no issue with running. Very solid card. Like this card a lot. Then grade 2 rare, Drake Ritter Mardau. When placed on rear and you have a grade 3 or greater Alphard Vanguard, you Counter Blast 1. Retire one of your opponent's rear guards, and then this unit gets power plus 5k. And then on attack, if you have a grade 3 or greater Alphard Vanguard and you have 3 or more in your damage zone, it gets power plus 5k. So it gets a total of plus 10k, plus it retires something. But retiring isn't really your focus here, so I don't think this card is super worthwhile to be running. Then we have grade 1, Drake Ritter Epical. In the back row rear, once per turn during your battle phase, when your other rear in the same column stands and you have a grade 3 or greater Alphard Vanguard, you stand this and it gets power plus 5k. At the end of the battle that boosts and you have a grade 3 or greater Alphard Vanguard and you have 3 or more damage, you throw this into soul and draw a card. Pretty solid card overall. The deck only has one restanding rear guard, so like it is like, of course tailor-made for that, but like it means that it's going to be 28 on first swing with no persona, 38 with persona, and then it's going to be like 43 or 33 depending on whether you have persona or not on the second swing, because it gets plus 5k, which is very solid numbers. Those are fantastic numbers to be hitting. Yeah, those are really great numbers. Yeah, like this card a lot. And is that it? No, we have a couple more. Grade 1 common, Drake Ritter Cirrus. When you have a grade 3 or greater Alphard Vanguard, you rest this, choose one of your Vanguards, and it gets power plus 5k. Not a huge fan of this, isn't really giving enough power. Grade 1 common, Drake Ritter Redome. When your grade 3 or greater Alphard Vanguard is placed, you can Counter Blast 1, call it to rear from drop, and if your persona rode this turn, choose one of your Vanguards during this turn. That unit and this unit get power plus 5k. Now, this is what I'm talking about. This is self-reviving booster. That is going to be 13k on the turn you bring it back. And is also going to pump up Alphard more, so that Alphard is bigger. And I do believe this one also does not have a same name restriction, so you can do multiple of these if you have the Counter Blast for it. So that's pretty strong. And as I recall, Alphard does not have any... Yeah, Alphard does not have any Counter Blast costs on it. The only Counter Blast cost you really have to worry about in this deck of the cards that's really worth running is Gamma Rays. So you can easily on your kill turn feed in multiple of those. And then unrelated to Alphard, we have the Chris Rain Mythish, ever-changing Mythish Ortinius. During your turn, when this is discarded from your hand, look at 5 cards from the top of your deck and add a Chris Rain from among them. In the drop, at the end of the battle of your Chris Rain Vanguard's attack and you activate Divine Skill, you counterblast 1, call this to Rearguard Circle. And when it attacks, during this turn, if this unit was chosen by your Vanguard's ability, or during this turn, this unit or unit with the same name as this unit enter the Rearguard Circle by its effect. For this battle, this unit gets power plus 5k. If your opponent's at grade 3 or greater, it gets power plus 10k. And if you activate Divine Skill this turn, it gets power plus 15k total. This card kind of stinks. So like in a vacuum, good card. Definitely good card. There's a lot of good effects here. However, there's a bit of a problem here, which is that there's nowhere for this card to go. Francet gains so much power that this card just has no hope of matching it, even with if you're using like the Rochelle restand to restand a booster. You can achieve something very similar by just calling Tolmana off your Chris Rain Divine Skill and using the Tolmana effect to call a booster that will have a plus 5k on it behind the Francet, so it's boosted. And like the discard effect is far too narrow and doesn't have a whiff condition. Like, I think the best chance for this card would have been if the discard effect either had a very, very wide range, or it drew you a card if you whiffed. If it did either of those things, then this card could probably go in the slot that Precia is eating right now in the deck. It really sucks that it does not have that, because like it would be nice to like, okay, I missed Rochelle, but I have Retrinius, so I can still do my 5 attack Divine Skill turn, but it doesn't do that. It's, yeah, like there's just no spot in the deck for this. It doesn't make sense to run this card because everything it does is done better by something that already exists in the deck. You're not getting meaningful redundancy out of this. Like, the deck is consistent enough at finding its pieces as it is. I just can't see it with this card. There's just no place in the deck for this. All right, let's talk about a lyrical thing that's a bit more exciting. Let's talk about Lithium Mates. So Lithium Mates, Lotte. This is basic starter, basic D starter, nothing special here. Grade 1, Lithium Mates, Karis. If wrote upon by Lithium Mates Lattice, which is the grade 2, you look top 7, and you discard up to 1 unit with Lithium Mates in its name and up to 1 normal order. So that can be the Crimson Moon or this deck's own normal order. And during your turn, if you have a grade 3 or greater Magnolia Vanguard, it gets power plus 2k. Then we have grade 2 Lithium Mates Lattice. When wrote upon by grade 3 Magnolia Vanguard, you choose and call up to 2 grade 2 or lower. Wait, what? No, that's a mistranslation. Wow, Freedom Duel has been sloppy lately. You choose and call up to 1 grade 2 and below unit with Lithium Mates in its name from your drop zone to your rearguard circle. If no units were called, you call this to rearguard circle and you soul charge 1. Pretty solid, especially comboed with the grade 1 effect, but it does still suck that the ride line is only +1. And when it attacks and you have a grade 3 or greater Magnolia Vanguard, for this battle, this unit gets power plus 5k. And then Magnolia is act once per turn. You Soul Blast 1, choose 2 of your rears. During this turn, they can attack from back row. If your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you CB1. During this turn, all rears in your back row get power plus 10k. And until the end of your opponent's next turn, this unit gets grade +1, drive +1. The grade +1 seems to mainly be for flavor. You can use the grade 4 support dragon, but I don't think it's really worth it. Then Fantome skill, at the end of your turn, you bind 1 or 2 Crimson Moons from your hand, soul, or drop. You choose up to the same number of non-sentinel rears as the number of cards bound for this effect. You bounce them back to your hand. And then until the end of your opponent's next turn, this unit gets 1 instance of the red text. All your units with lithium mates in their name get shield plus 5k. If you bound 2, this card gets 2 instances of the effect instead. So that's pretty awesome. If you bind 2, you get to make all of your lithium mates 15k shields, which is really good. Even if you only bind 1, you make them all 10k shields, which is still super, super solid. That still does a whole lot for your shield value. This is a really, really good defensive effect. Like this stuff a lot. Drive plus 1, of course, really good. The power gain on your entire back row also really good, especially when you get to combo that with Persona Ride and you go, okay, I have Persona Ride on my entire board. Good stuff. Let's talk about the rest. So we have Valshablan. Kind of really irritated by Valshablan not moving Nation. Like, it's this weird thing they still have where like Lyrical is like segmented out from the other nations, so it doesn't get involved in any of the like exchanges between nations that they ever do with dual nations, or now with the cyclers moving between nations for these. We'll get into this later, but I don't think you actually play this in Lithium Mates, because it isn't a Lithium Mates. It doesn't have the name, so it doesn't benefit from the shield value. And all the Lithium Mates cards are good, as we'll get into. And like you basically just max all of them except for the red line pieces, the orders, and then you run Strega in the remaining slot. And Strega just slots in super well for this deck, as we'll get into. Yeah, so like I don't see any reason to really run this. You're not so dependent on the Crimson Moons. You have tons of ways to dig for it. Like I really don't think you need a Derek Searcher here. Then Triple Rare Grade 2, Lithium Mates Dilash. So when it's placed on rear guard circle, you counterblast 1. Look at a number of cards from the top of your deck up to your number of units with Lithium Mates in their card name, and add 1 to hand and shuffle your deck. So you don't have to show that. You can grab a PG with that. You can grab a Persona Ride with that. You can grab like anything with that. This is such an extremely powerful effect, especially because in most instances, you're going to have like a full board, or 5 out of 6 will be Lithium Mates, with the last one being Strega. And you'll be going, okay, I'm going to look top 5 or top 6, and if I find the perfect card there, it's added to my hand. And you can also add Crimson Moons off that, of course. Yeah, really, really good stuff. A really incredible card. Then when it attacks and you have a grade 3 or greater Magnolia Vanguard, it gets power plus 5k, and at the end of the battle, you throw it into Soul and bounce one of your rear guards back to hand. This second effect is also really, really strong, because unlike Magnolia's bounce, this does not require you to bounce a non-sentinel. You can bounce a sentinel with this. So you can find a sentinel off of Crimson Moon or off of Strega, call it to the field. It'll become a decent attacker because of the plus 10k, or just put it in the column that's going to be boosted. And then at the end of this thing's battle, we shove it into Soul and we bounce our PG back to hand. Really, really fantastic. Really good card. Really, really good card. Then we have first the next one. Here we are. Double rare Lithium Mates Alpin. During your turn, if you have a grade 3 or greater Magnolia Vanguard, it gets power plus 5k. And if your Vanguard is grade 4 or above, so really if your opponent's a grade 3 or greater, it gets power plus 10k instead. So this is our best attacker, besides Strega herself. After the battle, this unit attacks and you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Magnolia in its name, you Energy Blast Drain and retire it to countercharge 1, soul charge 1. Random soul charge isn't ideal, but as we'll get into later, this deck does have a natural soul upkeep of 2 a turn. Counter charge is really nice. Kind of annoying that this doesn't draw. That's kind of annoying, but it's the best attacker, so like it's still super solid. Here we are. Grade 2, Lithium Mates Shimius. From the drop, if you have a grade 3 or greater Magnolia Vanguard, you Energy Blast 2 and revive it. This does not have any limit on how many times you can do this. However many copies of these you have in your drop, you can do it. It's really, really good. Like, especially because you want to be intercepting or guarding with your whole field every turn. A self-reviver like this that has no limit on how many times you can use it is really good. On attack, it gets plus 5k, so it's still a solid attacker. And if you do so, retire it at end of the battle. End of turn, actually. So you can actually circumvent this by like having it be bounced before then, which is really good. Grade 1, DZ-BT13's Tarnu. This is during your ride phase when your grade 3 or greater Magnolia Vanguard is placed, and you do not have a rear with the same name as this, you call this your rear. It gets probably plus 5k just for free, and it also intercepts from back row. It gets intercept, and if you have a grade 3 or greater Magnolia Vanguard, and it can intercept from the back row. So that's also really, really good. As a 15k shield especially. Because even if you do the bind 2, you're only bouncing 2 with Magnolia. So you like, in theory, if we don't have like if we don't factor in the additional great rear guard into it, okay, this means we're bouncing 2 of our back rows, but that leaves one of our back rows there. That back row can just be this card, which can intercept from back row. So that squares that problem really, really quickly. Then, okay, here it is. Mates with You is a grade 0 normal order. You can play it from drop if you have a grade 3 or greater Magnolia Vanguard. But you can still just play it from hand on earlier turns as long as you have a Lithium Mates Vanguard. And you Soul Blast 1 to use it. So because of this card, you're going to need to Soul Blast 2 every single turn with this deck. So it's good that we have some Soul Charge in the deck. Then you bind this. During this turn, you may play one more order, but you cannot play orders other than Crimson Moon, so you're able to use both this and Crimson Moon. But that also makes this an especially good Strega deck, because it means that without running into cross-pollination, like a too many order issue, then why did I say cross-pollination? You're not going to run into like running too many orders issues with this deck while still running 8 orders, which means your Strega is just always live. Your Strega will always be live. And then you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, you discard any number of them that you want, shuffle your deck. So you just look top 3, deck thin out as many non-triggers as you want. Really strong. And then and then you take a unit from your drop. You choose a unit from your drop. If it's a Lithium Mates, you call it. If it's an order, you add it to your hand, so you can add back the Crimson Moon to then play out, which is really strong. Then, if you have a grade 3 or greater Magnolia Vanguard, you choose 2 of your rears, give them power plus 5k. If you Persona Road this turn, you choose 4 instead. This is an absurd card. This card is so ridiculous. Now we're through most of the stuff that I think we're through, like everything that matters. We might be through everything that matters for everything for this deck. So the one thing, yeah, this is a grade 0. We should be through everything. So the one thing with this deck is that the power numbers aren't really fantastic. They aren't super ideal power numbers, but the deck does have a lot of things going for it. Like, especially on your going first turn, you're going to struggle to hit numbers that beat over even with a trigger. Especially because you can only give this plus 5k to 2. Like, you're going to struggle to make meaningful numbers, especially if your opponent hits any damage triggers. Which is super not ideal, especially since the deck only gets 5 attacks, unlike other Storage and Magnolia variants, which get the benefit of 6 attacks, as an upside to having that weakness to triggers. We also don't have any card like Squirrel or Geonosis that like effectively that's double dip on a unit, and despite using back row attacks, allows us to still effectively have an extra attack be boosted. So those are the downsides, right? For the upsides, this deck will never run out of Persona rides. Never. Because you can just always bring back a Magnolia with this order, and then bounce it at end of turn. As long as you see a single persona copy, you will have personas for the rest of the game, which is really great. You have really easy access to your sentinels because you have a grade 2 that looks top 6 for looks top 5 to 6 for sentinels. Stragus can also find sentinels that you will then be able to bounce with one of your rears. So that's really fantastic. And then you have the incredible defensive value of the Fantome skill. The Fantome skill also dives into the side Fantome skills I was really liking when we first saw Blangdemeyer, in that it is a modular skill. You are deciding on every given turn how much do I want to dip in, and that's especially going to be important with a defensive deck like this, because it's going to be really important, like if you're expecting a longer game where you're going to have more personas than your opponent, especially, it is in particular important to be able to continue to use that defensive skill for more turns of the game. Some scenarios, of course, you will want to double up, and that's just what you need to do in that scenario. But this definitely feels like a deck that will be skill testing in that regard of how much do I dive into this Fantome skill. I need to really be familiar with what kind of offenses my opponent is going to be putting out and what I need to guard through it. Yeah, there's just a lot I really like about this deck. This deck is really good. Wait, does the grade 2 go to Soul? Oh, this goes to Soul. Okay. Yeah, we really shouldn't have that many Soul issues, even with Strega. Like, we have this that goes to Soul. We have the other card that retires itself to countercharge 1, Soul charge 1. And we are going to Persona right every turn. Even if we are using Strega every single turn, we will not run into Soul issues. It should not be an issue. Yeah, okay. Yeah, this deck is just really strong. Yeah, I really like the defensive side of it. I'm worried about its offenses, but its defensive capacities are incredible. This is like, it reminds me a lot of like Ava and Direful Dolls in those defensive capabilities. Very good stuff there. It does kind of build itself because you're only getting that defensive benefit on the lead teammates. So and all the lead teammates are like good cards. So you're just gonna max out on all of them. I am still a bit worried about the numbers. I think the numbers are a bit lower than I would really like them to be. But I do think it is manageable. I'd really like to build this deck personally, but I think Strega is completely mandatory. I would not build this deck without Strega, because that PG digging capacity is really strong. So, but Strega is like $50. I'm not buying Strega. I'm not gonna buy Strega while it's at that price tag. Yeah. Very unfortunate, but it is what it is. Very cool deck. I like this deck a lot. All right, let's talk about the English conference stuff. So, they gave us information on Premium Weekend. It is going to be running from August 2026 to March 2027, which is the season for which would be the next BCS season. Day 1 is main event, day 2 is community events. Being 2 days kind of signifies that these are like regional tier events or something along those lines, not like constructed cup type things. Exclusive promo cards and supplies with exclusive art. That's cool. That suggests like new artwork. So we might be getting some like reprints with new artwork. That's cool. And event winners earn an invite to the next World Finals standard regulation. This is really the killer here. That tells us right out the gate there isn't going to be a Premium Worlds next year. This is the last Premium Worlds. Which kind of sucks. But I am glad that I can't be too mad that Premium is still being supported to some degree in this way. As we'll get into, next BSF does not have Premium. And we can probably safely assume that next BCS won't either. It's being segmented out into its own events. I am curious how attendance will actually go with Premium getting its own solo events. Because I do think Premium attendance benefits quite a lot from people already traveling out for standard and being like, well, I'm here anyways, I might as well do the day 2 thing. Like, I'm not saying that's like all or even like a majority of premium players, right? But I am saying that is probably a contributor to the current numbers. So I'm curious what the numbers will be for these events. Though I would be a bit more curious if this was going to a premium worlds, because it going to a standard worlds is already like a huge demotivator. But in general, I do like there being more circuits that lead into worlds. Something we'll be talking about more with BSF. So let's get into that. White stuff, don't care. Okay, so BSF. We're getting another promo pack. This is the chibis with for the heal triggers that happened during Deluxe. And FR ride lines for, what is this? That's Bav. I don't even remember what this one is. Sivelt, Heartlaroo, Vaceruger, Daikaiser, Houndraiser, I think. Youth, Nebula Knights? I think that's Nebula Knights. Argo Siren, I assume. Someone else I don't recognize. And Juicy Fruity, I assume. Bunch of more FR ride lines. Also, for the first time ever, the show more thing on the site actually works. So that's cool. They finally got that squared away. Participation gets you this coaster, this Human Next Show coaster. That's cool. Then prizing. Okay, Weiss, don't care about that. Don't care about that. Here's what we care about. Okay, so teams. We have top 8. Top 8 gets Kagetsu or Michiru energy generator, and then Michiru or elementary sanctitude Matt. Importantly, singles. Top cut gets a hot stamped ridicule disruptor, and top 4 gets Kagetsu or Michiru energy generator with a single stamp on it. Our day 2 for Vanguard at BSF this year is going to be a singles tournament. And let me see if I can pull it up. Yeah, it's just in the champion prizing. So teams, the champion prize is it's both these are elementary or sanctitude. Type A is Michiru art, type B is just this fancy full art. And for singles, first place also gets an unsponsored invitation to World Finals. So between this, the upcoming BCS season, of course, and Premium Weekend, there are 3 streams for qualifying for Worlds, which is super, super cool. I'm especially excited about BSF doing this because we had this back in 2017. If I recall correctly, 2017 was also the first year that they did away with Continentals and you qualified directly to Worlds. But back in 2017, instead of having a team circuit, they just had 2 single circuits and both qualified for Worlds. And that was super, super cool. 2017 was like the last year of like the circuit continually actually improving. And ever since then, I've been like, I really wish we could get back to that. It feels kind of weird that teams is this segmented thing that doesn't really matter. Like the prizing is cool, especially after the upgrades that have happened recently for the prizing. But it still doesn't feel great that it doesn't like matter for the world circuit at all. But now the world circuit is actually year long. Now the summer season actually matters for qualifying to worlds, and that's super, super awesome. Right now, it's only first place that qualifies as an unsponsored invite, but my hope would be in future years we see that expanded more. And just in general, it's just really, really exciting. And like, unlike when they did this back in 2017, they did it without sacrificing teams, which is also super cool. The fact that we get to have both teams and the singles tournament that qualifies to Worlds is super awesome. Like, obviously, I'm not hugely big into premium. I've talked about this before. So the premium news was never gonna hit me that hard, but it is kind of still a bummer. But like, all of that is like overridden so hard by this information that we have these multiple streams to Worlds now. That the World Circuit is actually all year round now. Finally, like, it is those things that I've been really excited for, and like, honestly, I might actually play premium weekend. If there's one in Toronto, which I imagine there will be. I highly doubt they wouldn't do one there. And like, I hope they take advantage of Premium Weekend to time it such that like it's at an opposite end of the year in the BCS circuit than that area's BCS would be. So that like each start of the year you have an event to go to. And honestly, it might still help Premium quite a bit if it's like, okay, this is a Vanguard event. This is a Vanguard regional type event I can go to in this start of the year when my area isn't going to have one otherwise. Yeah, lots of great stuff here. I'm really, really excited about this season. I'm really excited about these changes. This is like a type of change I've been wanting to see happen for the last 9 years. I've been waiting 9 years for us to return and improve upon the 2017 structure. Next up, we do the other thing 2017 did, which was 2017 was also when we had 2-day events, and the second day was entirely best of 3. Hey, remember when some stage of the circuit every year from 2012 to 2017 had best of 3? Remember how things were before the year that V was introduced? Remember? Can we please get back to that? Can we please get back to having best of 3 somewhere in the circuit? Thanks. I'd really appreciate it. I'd really appreciate Bush Road. All right. Yeah, yeah. This BSF news is like really great. I'm really excited about it. Yeah. Oh, also, there's actually another cool thing. Let me see if I can pull it up. While I have the page up, I do want to quickly note, they do like, they haven't like clearly displayed this in previous seasons, but they are now like clearly displaying, hey, the number in top cut will vary based on the number of players, and clearly stating those numbers of players. That's great to see. It's always been annoying that isn't like clearly stated anywhere. Teams is still locked to top 8. But what I wanted to talk about was in the side events. The side event for Vanguard will be like these 8-man constructed cups. It's not clear which constructed cup rule set it will be under, but also the participation and champion prize will be these divine skill markers. Apparently Japan has these types of divine skill markers before, but I think this might be the first time we're getting these in English. And like, I've got to say, it's kind of cringe that we're only getting these in English in what will be the last tournament season, the last tournament circuit of DZ. Like, we're going to be going to a new era that won't have divine skills after this, but still pretty cool to see. I still appreciate it nonetheless. And yeah, with that said, that's going to be Hunter Surge signing off.